welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, like I said, we are continuing to talk about women within our space because, of course, tomorrow is International Women's Day. So all week on GMT, on the Tobago Updates morning show, we are speaking with lots of influential women within our space. And now we are being joined for this segment. We're being joined by Miss Ira Mathur, and she is the past president of the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago. So good morning and welcome to you, Ira. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, Kandace. Doing fine, thank you.
Great to hear you. Great to see you.
Same here.
All right, so this morning we are speaking a little bit about, women in media and just looking at the space of media within our country and how much that has, grown and developed over the years. When you look back at this spectrum right now, what would you say? How would you rate the way that women have come through the ranks and forged themselves within the media space?
I think the women in media is a reflection of women in the society on the whole, right? So, if you permit me, I'm just going to start off with some macro statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Still around the world, women own 1% of property, and they form 50% of all of humanity. Only 1 in 4 women globally are part of the legislature. Um, Women, through 25% of women in the in developing countries, still don't have access to education. And, millions of women worldwide still do unpaid, long hours of domestic labor and have unpaid work. Our health is much worse. So that although there's really a lot to celebrate, I am one of those people who I'm a little bit wary of having just one day for women, because I think every single day of life, women do quietly do the work that allows societies to continue, such as raise children, look after communities, look after the elderly. So that is so I wanted to talk about women in the media in that particular context. Um, from the time when I started in the media, Candace, there were a lot of women, but a lot of us were in fairly junior positions. We still didn't have an idea of what our rights were in terms of maternity leave, in terms of leave, in terms of in the organization, decision making areas in the organization. The boardrooms tended to be dominated by women, and it's very sad, but the statistic still says that currently women are, very regularly paid less than men, and it's this for the same work, the exact same work, but we're paid less. And I think people sometimes, especially the Trinidadian women, and I think women all around the world, there are women around the world who say, well, I'm not a feminist. And there are men who just see feminists as men haters. And it can't be further from the truth. I think all women are saying, we're not saying we want to be like men. We're not saying we want to be men. All we're saying is that we want to be treated as equal humans. And we are moving that way, but we're not quite yet there.
Mhm. And then when you look at, just even, and you kind of touch on it a little bit, the pay disparity and so on, what can you tell us about the pay disparity that is even within our space?
Well, obviously we're not privy to people's actual wages and their, and their contracts. But on the whole, it's very, very easy to see just where women fall in organizations. We tend to be great supportive staff. I've heard men all around the country saying, I'm going to hire a woman any day because, she can multitask. So, yes, lots of secretaries, lots of assistants. We have that. But that said, I don't want to take away from the fact that in Trinidad and Tobago, we have one of the greatest levels of equality in terms of top jobs with women as well. And the UN has, these are UN statistics. Just take yourself, Candace, you're heading up this the flagship program in your station. There are women in the boardrooms. There are women, in the Trinidad Guardian, in the Express. You have a woman editor. In the Newsday, there's a woman editor in chief. So I mean, yes, we are taking our place in the world increasingly, and I think there's something to watch out for. Is women are clearly outperforming boys, and this is something also that will affect all of society later on in the future. In every single educational institution. So, I mean, and what happens with that is that once women outstrip boys in education, that we get a backlash. There's more domestic violence and there's more friction between the sexes. So I think I'm all for one saying that, it's not just about women. I think women's rights need to be human rights. If women do well, all humans do well. If men and boys are guided more towards education and higher education, as they're currently really dropping in numbers, which is alarming, I think then we will all do better. But I believe that Women's Day is every day, Candace.
Certainly, but when we zero in into media a little bit,
Sure.
when media started off, it was driven by males. It was male hosts and male reporters, male journalists, and that sort of thing right across the board. And eventually, as things changed, women got into there. But do you think that the public perception has changed in the way that they value a male voice as opposed to a female voice on shows as reporters? Talk to me a little bit about that influence.
I think that was true in the past, but it's certainly changing. I mean, look at our past two presidents, women, right? And women, and we are actually quite a matriarchal society. There are lots of mothers and grandmothers who've brought up the men in this society, and I think men do respect women. So I think that men are actually absolutely fine with having women in positions of authority. And I would go as far as to say, from a lot of men that I've spoken to, they have actually more confidence in women, because they also see us as mothers, as people who look after communities, as people who look after the elderly and the young. So they see us. There's a greater sense of I think the only way I could say it, I think people have more confidence in the moral compass that is a woman, because we bring up children, we create civic people, we create civic societies because we have and bring up children, to a large degree.
Hmm. And and in the media space as well, are you seeing that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that, we've been visiting our interim executive, of which you are a part, and I'm a trustee of Matt. Our interim president, Daly Knock, and I, and Robert Taylor and Philip Matheson. We've been visiting newsrooms around the country, and I could tell you they are dominated by women. Editors are, I think almost all, the majority of editors are women. So yes, I think it's a very positive space, and we're in a great space to influence society. But one thing I want to really make a point of very quickly here,
Hmm.
Candace, I think that over time, because it was so hard to get the few spaces that maybe women were able to get, what women had been doing in the past, and maybe not, consciously, is that when you get to the top, you kick the ladder behind you. I think what we really need, I think this may have happened to you, it's happened to me. I think each woman in the workplace, whether you're 18 and 19 and just entering, or whether you're in your 40s and you've got a flourishing career, we all need to support one another. We can't kick the ladder down behind ourselves, so that, anytime we see a woman who is struggling, instead of saying, well, I struggle, let her struggle too. I think it really is our duty, not just to place the onus on what is still admittedly a male dominated business space. It's our duty to look at women and say, let me give you a hand. Can I help you with that story? Can I help you with that job? Can I help you with that CV? Can I help you when you're down? How can I bring you up? Because I think that as women bring one another up, the whole tide will rise, and we will all rise towards equality. And when we are equal, the world is a better place.
And certainly, and I mean, just quickly before we go, when we talk about gender equality and so on, we're not just talking about the numbers, we're just talking about the opportunities.
Absolutely, Candace. And I think that actually in recent times, the global movements such as the Me Too movement, such as the Black Lives Matter movements, such as even social media, despite all the issues that we do have with it today, with trolling and so on, it's great because, in my time, when a male boss hit on you, it was just you and him, and you in a closed room, and you absolutely had no recourse. I mean, it's kind of happened. It's happened to me. Probably happened to a lot of women of my generation. But now they know that, it just, all it takes is a photograph that's uploaded on social media saying this guy is, a slime ball, and, his career is finished. So I actually think it's really, really changed a lot. And I think the fact that we have movements behind us, it really, really helps. There's strength in numbers, there's strength in supporting one another. And we've seen that over the years, the outpouring in our society. About 40 to 50 women get killed every year in domestic violence incidences. And, it's heartbreaking, but it also points to the fact that men are not feeling empowered. When you don't feel empowered in terms of your job, you don't feel empowered in society, and you don't have a voice, what do? You kick and you hit the most vulnerable person around you to feel empowered, right? So I think we are seeing that. Um, a lot of what's happening in people's private lives is playing out in the public domain. If a woman is murdered today, questions are asked on social media. What happened? Who was the spouse? And people are having conversations around all of that. So I think the best thing about being alive today in this kind of exploding social media, as opposed to when I began, is that we can feel comfort that strange women, strangers from around the world, will rise to our defense. And that is what I really want to encourage all women to do, not just today, because like I said earlier, I don't like tokenism. I just feel that as half of humanity, as why is it that we only own 1% of, whatever there is to own in the world today? And as half of humanity, I think we all, every single day, have a duty, men and women, to bring one another up.
Certainly. Well, I want to thank you so much, Ira, for being on with us and for giving us your perspectives, especially as we continue to discuss women all week here at Tobago Update. So it was a pleasure, as usual. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you.
All right, viewers. Well, that's how we're going to wrap our show this morning. So thank you for joining us. And I hope you have a safe and wonderful day. And we will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now. Passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks.